All right, good evening to all of you. It's 6 p.m. We're gonna get started.
Is that already recorded?
So good evening to all of you. This evening is our special general meeting here of April 11th at the Governor Recreation Center, which is a special general meeting means that we're hosting for one specific topic, and this evening is a presentation of the MCA's 2024-25 operating budget. You notice we have a bit of a change in the setup here because it's predominantly around the presentation that we'll be doing for the community. If I remember the council here, normally we would have the head table here and that's where we would focus, but because of the presentation, the length of it, and the dialogue that we'll be having around it, that we have a couple screens so everybody can see. So I will be chairing the meeting as normally would be. I'll use this as a spot where I will speak from. The presenter will speak from here or use so we'll call the meeting to order. We have the acceptance of the agenda and the rules of order in tonight's presentation as the MCA 2024-25 operating budget. Then we have adjournment. So I'd like to ask for a word to accept the agenda. Greg, Julie, and Cindy, all in favor? And well, this is a special general meeting. It is we still acknowledge the cancellation protocol around which a member of our community has passed since our last community session. I do at this time want to take a moment to acknowledge those that have been grieving since the last community meeting. Could honor them at the moment of silence, so let's serve them. On behalf of myself and council, we extend our condolences to all those affected by loss the last weeks and months. So all of our members are in attendance this evening. Again, I've read what the agenda is. We have the one presentation being done this evening. The rules of order is very similar to those of a regular general meeting. We start at 6 p.m. Again, right here at the Governor Recreation Center, April 11th. We'll proceed to about 8 p.m. depending on where we're at. I think that there's a lot of preparation time gone into tonight's presentation. The 2 hours should be about what is needed. If not, we will stop at 8 o'clock and see where we're at and determine if it's a proceed or if it's going to be we'll proceed at another meeting. But I think the 2 hours should be sufficient. Again, this is a public forum. It is a special general meeting, which means that we're here for one agenda purpose, and that is to present the MCA budget. But given that it is a public meeting and it is being recorded, so as again the camera lines from the table here forward, the presentations are being recorded as well as the presenters that's being shared later on the YouTube page of the MCA. We ask that personal issues or personal items not be dealt in this forum for this presentation on the budget. So we just ask that all of the matters related to the presentation being made. Tonight we will take questions at the end. The presentation is in your packages that you have there on the table. There's some more in the back, some material in the back as well. So if we could keep questions to the end, we do have pen and paper back there as well. If you want to jot that down. Again, this is a presentation for the budget. So the questions are all this evening related to the presentation that we're doing. If there are any issues that we can't deal with, again, we'll take them back. And there are items that we can't answer or even follow up with the same as with the normal meeting that are related to the budget presentation happening. And finally, this is a community meeting. It is a public meeting. We ask that everybody please remain respectful as we move through the presentation. At the end, we'll take some questions as well for that. But that is the format for this evening's general meeting. Yes, sir.
What it's not with the general meeting get changed to here.
So council moved because of the proximity between the general meeting and this special general meeting. This was taking place at the general meeting for March. But there is, so the next general meeting will be taking place May 2nd, and that will be in district style. Yeah, that hasn't been announced yet, but that's, the date has been determined, the agenda hasn't been set yet, but the next general meeting will be taking place 2nd of May. Okay, so that's our rules of order and our procedure for this evening. I'll ask our executive director, Donna Hall, to come forward and begin the presentation.
And so we'll start with the presentation. Thank you for attending tonight, and we're looking forward to this, presenting this budget to you. So the vision of the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne is, you know, what double our future, our responsibility. The mission is with a good mind.
Yeah, I thought this was a face-to-face meeting with our directors, was that on the budget? Was that what was advertised in your announcements on your Facebook page? So I thought it was a face-to-face meeting with the directors. That's why I wrote it here.
So we're working on a new streamlined approach because we're being compliant with the FAL financial administrative law, which requires an annual update to the community on the budget. The two major positions in the FAL are the executive director and the senior financial officer, which is the DFA director. So those two are really responsible for the overall budget. And so we're really being in compliance with that, and we want to streamline this presentation to make sure that it's really delivered in a concise way with a goal of planning the strategic vision of our leadership with financial insights from our leadership, the management team, to give you a clear, complete picture of our financial status and future plans.
So we're not gonna be able to ask questions of the directors on each
We-
department's budget.
So, like Aiden said earlier, the questions will be at the end. And if we can answer some of them, we will. And any others, you can write them on paper that's been supplied at the back.
It was advertised face to face.
It was advertised that the directors, we are directors. And we're compliant with the FAL, and that's what we are doing tonight. Thank you for attending, everyone, and thank you for that. Thank you for that. Yeah.
So presentation is scheduled, person is council president. We have an obligation to present this on the plan of administration law that. So there are issues that we want to address with certain departments.
We will get back to you.
Okay, so I'll continue on. The mission is, with a good mind, it is our responsibility to protect and exercise our inherent rights while creating sustainable partnerships and building a strong community for future generations. The values of family and work are about relationships. Success in life is tied to the quality of our relationships and how much spirit we put into them. Our principles are son of peace, son of the real good mind, and thus us of strength to guide us. So the strategic priorities for MCA for the fiscal year 2022 to 2026 are the following. Priority 1 is governance and politics, which is working towards self-determination and self-governance. Communications, laws and regulations, moving towards self-determination and community participation. Priority 2, economic development, building growth and prosperity, business and partnerships, and meeting the needs. Priority 3, culture and language, preservation and revitalization, use of technology, learning resources, encouraging Mohawk language use, and shared responsibility. Priority 4, health and well-being, caring for our members, responsive support, building our capacity to serve. Priority 5, social development, community needs, respecting all members, expanding our services, creating leadership opportunities and inclusivity. Priority 6, environment, infrastructure, and housing, maintaining our lands, housing, land management, and environment. Priority 7, MCA service efficiency, essential services, quality services, equity, innovation, leadership, safety, and focus on well-being. The organizational structure is comprised of community at the top, which elects the council, grand chief and council. Grand chief and council oversee the organization, and they are the supervisor of the executive director. They're supported by council operations, which is the Mohawk government support staff, and is managed by Alan Jacobs. The departments are Mohawk Board of Education, Public Safety, Community and Social Service, Health, Finance and Administration, Justice, Infrastructure, Housing and Environment, and Economic Development. Thank you.
So we did a run through earlier of this, so this, what you have in your hand isn't completely 100% matching. We did a few edits, corrections, spelling mistakes. So we will be posting a fresh copy of this online for you to be able to see, and those were last minute, the report was started. So for the MCA budget summary, this is our overall operating plan for the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne. So each department is listed in the first column. The anticipated amount of funding is the second column. Our planned operating expenses, third column, special projects or project-based initiatives in the fourth column, and the surplus over deficit in the fifth column. So for council operations, the anticipated funding is 1.1 million, operating expenses of 811. Special projects, which are mostly drama based, are 1.1 million for a surplus of deficit of 751,000. Executive services, anticipated funding of 9.2 million, mostly from Indigenous Services Canada, operating expenses of 5.3 million, special projects of 3.7 million, for a surplus of 164,000. Economic development, anticipated funding 3.1 million, operating expenses 3.8 million, special projects of 120K, surplus over deficit of $770,000. Department of Housing, Infrastructure, and Environment, anticipated funding of 12 million, operating expenses of 13 million, special projects of 80,000 for a deficit of 903K. Department of Community and Social Services, anticipated funding of 18 million, operating expenses of 10 million, special projects of 7.2 million for anticipated surplus of 276,000. Health, 42 million in anticipated funding, operating expenses 27 million, special projects of 11.8 million for a deficit surplus of 2.5 million. Department of Finance and Administration, anticipated funding of 4.8 million, operating expenses of 7.5 with a deficit of 2.7 million. Akwesasne Mohawk Board of Education, anticipated funding of 33 million, expenses of 30 million, special projects of 5 million, with an anticipated deficit of 2 million. Department of Justice, 4.9 million, operating expenses 4.9, and just a slight deficit of $22,000. Public Safety, $13 million anticipated funding, its operating expenses 15.4 million. Special projects of 330,000 with this anticipated deficit of 2.4 million. So because of these deficits we're showing here, we're looking at going into the 10-year grant reserve of $9 million out of the core, and then we're also looking at going into the reserves out of $2 million for ambulance. So non-unionized salary adjustments. So we have 5 unions in the organization right now. All of them are at market-based salary. The employees who are not in a union are sitting mostly about 70% of market. So we need to bring them up to market-based salaries to have an equitable workplace. So we're looking at those salary adjustments of about 5 million. It's a very rough estimate. We still have a lot of calculations to do. So our total annual proposed budget is 155 million. Operating expenses is 125 million, and our projects are 29.5 million, with anticipated balance budget. So this is the list of the reserves as of March 31st, 2023. So this is what we have in the bank, and these are, like I said, these are as of March 2023, so if council has MCR stuff for the year, it's not reflected here yet, which they have. So the OLG, which is casino rental reserves, is unrestricted, meaning it's not geared towards anything, 28 million, restricted 8.6 million, so we have a total in OLG reserves of $36.6 million. Enbridge Reserve, which is because the natural gas pipeline runs through Cornwall Island to get so much money every year, that's just put into a certain account, and it's sitting there waiting for council decision on what to do with it. That reserve is 2.5 million. The ISP 10-year grant reserve is sitting at 25 million. So we did receive a lot of COVID funding when during the years of COVID. So what we were able to do is put aside our operating money, and we used COVID for a lot of our operations. So that's why that amount is as high as it is. And we are having trouble staffing a lot of positions within the organization. So housing administrative reserve, $3 million, and that's for new construction and renovation loans. And then we have the CMHC replacement reserve. We're required by our CMHC agreements to have those reserves set aside to repair all of our rental units and our rent-to-own units. And the education reserves of 26 million. Again, they used a lot of COVID money for their operations, so they were able to put money aside for those reserves. Money aside for the future, but we have to see a lot of these reserves gone by 2029 when our 10-year grant is over. Health reserves, 7.8 million, that's mostly non-insured money, unspent non-insured money that's put aside in case, just in case we need it. DCSS reserves, 11.6 million, and a lot of that is reserves generated by not using all of our basic needs funding. Police reserve, 503,000, cannabis social responsibility reserve. So with social responsibility fees from our cannabis shops, they were put aside, and that's, again, it's reserved because council has to tell us what they want to do with that money. DTS reserves, unrestricted 2.2 million, and then restricted 598, so it's restricted for a certain purpose. So total reserves unrestricted is 30.2 million, restricted is 87.8 million, for a total of $118 million. So these are just expense categories. Council asked me to put together this chart. So salaries and benefits are sitting at 50%, special projects 19%, purchase service, which includes consulting, legal, just general purchase services are 9%. Our doctors, our lawyers are in here. Insurance 1%, food 1%, equipment 6%, office supplies, corporate supplies, and general supplies at 7%, and travel 1%. Sorry about that. So this is our Imperial Lotto and Gaming 24-25 allocation. So we're anticipating an income of $4 million from what we used to call Casino Rama. So for year after year, what we would do is anticipate $4 million, but we would only allocate $2.6 million. And when we had various meetings with the people who administered the trust, and they said, we need to see this money gone. So when we sat with the finance committee for this planning, they took the $4 million and they allocated all of the money throughout the community. So as you can see, it's just in and out. So what the decisions that were made with the finance committee is a purchase of 2 buses, a purchase of a new ambulance. We're gearing money towards finishing the Seaway claim, funding to go to help the communication unit. They're key in almost everything we do. The Akwesasne Community Fund, they doubled that from 100,000 to 300,000. And what the Akwesasne Community Fund is, they'll do a call out to different groups who want to apply for funding and want to run programming. They're allowed to they're free to apply for that funding. We also increased the number of funeral donations and just general donations from 100,000 to 200,000. We're doing the rec allocations, St. Rex, 9 rec, Cornwall Island rec, 40,000. Museums, homemakers went up to 30,000. Tri-district elders went up to 20,000. Powwow, donation doubled to 10,000. Housing rent subsidy of 150, that's been on the books for the last few years. Elders emergency repairs doubled from 100,000 to 200,000. Iroquois caucus is a contribution to council's participation in the Iroquois caucus. That's been at 10,000 for years. Discretionary allocation, so council can use that 300,000 to use that for their discretion. If some kind of project comes up, a donation, there's a group that wants to go to the Olympics, they can use their discretion and allocate that, but they have to have an MCA to do that. Opportunity funds, sometimes we'll get a opportunity to apply for money, but we'll have to put in matching, so the province will do 50%, somebody will do 40%, we'll have to put it in. That's what that's put aside for, and that's 250,000. The community heating fuel subsidy, 500,000. Now that usually costs us every year 1.7 million. So 500,000 of that will come from here. We apply it to the trust, and then the Department of Community and Social Services picks up a lot of that comes from. We have had the church insurance on our insurance policy for years, so that's where the cost comes from. Youth, elders, and culture, that's the youth committee and elders. For 10,000, an allocation goes to Mohawk government staff because they're completely unfunded. And then we get an allocation of 300,000 for the programming that Alice King is developing through the County. And then Mohawk Council wants to see a cultural call opening. So anybody who offers cultural services in the community, for example, Akwesasne will be able to apply for that. The traveling college, Ada, will be able to apply for monies through that. And then we're planning on getting more students to work this summer, so we need to do the summer student, OLG summer student funding, and then we do an allocation to Thompson Island.
I just have a question. Are you providing the executive service donations?
They're in one line. They're one person. And one person administers it, yeah, they were using the same account forever, they never separated it, so we just put it in one for these of their administration.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not like we got rid of anything, we just combined them because that's the way they're used to doing things. So this is council's operating budget. So salaries and benefits for council members, 1.2 million. Chiefs OLG project, so a lot of those ones that were on the previous is the community that it's funneled through one of their budget areas. And then this is expenses for all of the district chiefs. Now we know this is going to change because we have an election come up. So this is an estimate based on last year. And you just have to know, Fallon wanted me to point it out that isn't all her, that was based on her, the other chief and the other chiefs that were in the spot. So we're just taking that total of that spot and then plugging it in. So it's not all her, but she wanted me to much. And then, so this is all of these are based on previous year's travel phone miscellaneous and use. Here. The total revenue, 1.1 million. Expenses, 811,425. And then special projects of 1.1 million with a deficit of 764,000.
And so for executive services, the organizational chart comprises of the community who elects the council supervises the executive director. And on the acting executive director at this time. Government support program supports the function of the Mohawk government. The Office of the Rights and Research Office works on copyright treaties, and historical files. Nation building is by the regional there, and the Office of Life Statistics is supervised by management information. So for executive services, our projects are reviewing information management in executive services, which is ongoing. That's with the goal to locate this in our building. The ATIP regulation is being presently updated with the goal of drafting the first draft of the ATIP law, which is the access to information on personal privacy records. The FAL implementation is also ongoing because any work that comes into our office, such as contracts, leases, etc., we always comply with the FAL. Onboarding of the new executive director is also presently ongoing. The development of orientation for the new council, we are working on that right now. The strategic plan implementation is ongoing. We are working with all the departments who are working on their implementation plan with A to Z consultant for implementing the goals and project charters. The contract review for professional services, service contracts, as well as this review is a function in our office. It's a very busy function, which entails complying with the FAL and the finance policy. The policy development is also another area that we work on. Implement weather policy is something we're working on right now. The training and planning are ongoing in our office. The active threat readiness was one of the trainings we just had. Health and safety training is ongoing, as well as the COO, which is continuity of operations plans. The Office of the Rights and Research Office's goals and highlights are the Aboriginal and Treaty Rights files and research. Land claims are the North Shore, the Seaway Claim, the Dundee, US Claim, Barnhart and Baxter Islands, Nutfield and Cairn Island. In addition to reserve files that are heavily on our plate is the Dundee, which is the Baby Kenny property, McDonald's sister property, and Billfeld properties, which are probably already in the ownership of MCA, and we're just putting them through the ATR process at this time. The Cairn Island and OPG are also 90% done in the ATR process, and the islands of the OPG are Sheep Island, Presqu'île Island, Adams Island, and Tucson Island. The education projects that Arrow is working on is cultural awareness for CBSA, as well as other requested trainings. Technical support provided by this office is to the working tables of nation building and the airport office. The Mohawk government support, their basic highlights are ongoing operations to support the Mohawk council elected officials, as well as ongoing training for staff as well as council, and onboarding the new council for 2024. The nation building highlights are negotiations with Canada on the Inuit self-government agreement, which is ongoing. It's been ongoing for a couple of years. Working tables, land, fiscal, legal, technical review, communications, pre-implementation are looking at each of the chapters and the activities that we'll have to do when we become self-governing when it's resident. Capacity projects that the nation building budget funds are the finance policy update, governance training for the new council, negotiation training, decision-making training for Andy, as well as legislative development. Office of Life Statistics highlights are lands and estates, membership, leases, technical support to ATR working groups, nation building working groups, and other committees, and administration of lands that in ATR, such as on Governor lands became reserved in November 2020, and now they're administering the lots that are going to become reserved lands. So the budget for executive services for this fiscal year is the revenue is 9.2 million with expenses of 5.3 million and special projects of 3.7 million with a surplus of 164,132. Next.
Again, all of our organizational charts will show the community at the on top because we are spending community monies here. And we need to be reminded that anything we do is done with community dollars. So Community Council, Executive Director, Community and Social Services Director, Joseph Moore Lozon, Akwesasne Child and Family Services Associate Director, Valerie Creek-Cook, Community Supports managed by Daniel Breer. Akwesasne Family Wellness Shelter is managed currently by Acting Manager Cheryl Francis Renee. So Department of Community and Social Service, Community and Social Services, they're looking at development and implementation of a children's development service program. The structures and draft form awaiting approval through MCA, hiring of staff will begin. So right now, this department sits about 70 employees. It's looking at doubling in size. The only thing that's holding us back is space needs. Policy development for a family well-being and assistance program to streamline social emergency responses across the community. So we need to have somewhere to go if they're in dire need, we have to have a quick response at responding to people's needs. The org chart is in draft and staff are going to be hired this year in order to start delivering social emergency services. And then development of the quality assurance and data program within the department to streamline ministry reporting and quality improvement planning. So we don't just want to deliver services, we want to deliver quality services. Development of a culture and language program, the organizational chart is in draft form. So we are looking at moving Thompson Island camp to this culture and language program and start specifically developing more culture and language programs in the organization. So ACFS, continued implementation of a Red Main database system. We want a robust database to ensure that all of the data we need for all of our reporting and tracking is in one location and it's secure. Continued development of construction plans for new community space to provide all child and family services. And we're looking at the end of wave response in this 9 at this building. Development of child and family prevention services to enhance current and new collaboration with community partners utilizing the MCA agency allocation. Partnering with community organizations to provide culture and language programming for children and youth. Service delivery enhancement due to Bill C-92 and capacity building for inherent jurisdiction of all Mohawks of Akwesasne children who are involved with child welfare. And commence the search process for family reunification home purchase through the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal capital investment. So community support program, continued enhancement of income assistance, basic needs and shelter through the support of this. Reintroduce food/gas subsidies and political allowances for fiscal year April 1st. Continued enhancement of earning threshold for income assistance clients and the time of period for IA payments and benefits after receiving employment. Enhance our employment assistance program, employment activities and employability activities, administrative expansion to enhance capacity to deliver services. Development of the Akwesasne PO program, which is the implementation of public transportation. Akwesasne Family Wellness Program, commencement of shelter services from the main shelter building with renovations finishing up this year. Gender-based violence outreach program, expansion to be more inclusive and expand audience for our programming. LGBTQ++ 4 series of workshops for frontline providers, 5 programming, including youth gathering focused on two-spirit movement, focused on implementation of gender-based violence services to missing and murdered Indigenous women lens, collaboration, MMIW gathering on May 5th, education, awareness, and prevention, collaboration with AMPS to provide education and awareness when responding to gender-based violence calls, collaboration with community partners for culturally based programming to support victims of family violence, collaboration with holistic health and wellness for cultural, mental health, program development. So for community and social services, total revenue anticipated 18,400,000, expenses 10,900,000, with special projects of 7.2 million. I'm sorry, the middle one is 10 million. for a surplus over deficit of 276,000. So what's not included in here is we have a settlement fund of the FNCFS community portion. That's not in here yet. The budget is not done for that portion. So anything reflected in here is that FNCFS contingency portion. First Nation Child and Family Services Fund was a fund that we got due to an ongoing Canadian human rights lawsuit for children. And what the argument that was made was that our children on reserve were given this, when children were given this opportunity, but children off the reserve were given this opportunity. So now we have to raise it up to give our children the equal opportunity that they have, whether they were on reserve or off reserve, to bring them off, to lift up their spirits. So if you Google it, if you Google FNCFS, you'll see the details of the lawsuit, and you'll see the expenses that, like, we can't just use that money to build a building. That's not what it's allowed for. So we're looking at creative ways to get this money spent and get it out into the community. But that's what I'm saying is to improve the lives of our babies. That's it. So we can't go and fund adult programming and don't work that way. So we have a lot of work to do, and you'll see in the upcoming slides, there's some intention sprinkled in there on what we are planning on doing with that money. So finance and administration, this is my baby. Finance and administration, I'm the director, Heather Phillips. I have an acting comptroller, Lisa Delarnier, human resource co-managers, Bridget Phillips and Samantha White, our communications managers, Shannon Longpoint and Kimberly Pelker, and information services manager, Ryan Seaman. So what we're working on, and we do all of this internal services for the organization. So one of the things is creation of Parks and Recreation Department. What we want to do is partner with the local reps and say, how can we work together with FNCFS to create a Parks and Recreation Department that's fully funded, where we want to pull certain programs in, but we don't want to overstep what we're already doing and interfere in their current operations. How do we work together? So my part is to get the department created and how we do the job description for the director of Parks and Rec, and then try and get them hired and let them go from there. So we're looking at a management training series to make sure that all of our managers are trained up to the capacity they need to be. Implementation of a whistleblower system, so employees have the freedom to be able to bring wrongdoing to the surface. Right now, they don't have the freedom to make an anonymous complaint. So if somebody wanted to, we can always tell who it is. So this is a third-party system that will take the phone calls and then just relay them back to us, so we won't know where they're coming from. So maybe there's been things that happen within the organization, and it's like, because they were afraid or they didn't feel they had the freedom to. So that's an anonymous whistleblower system. I mean, keep your mind on that stand, because that sure. Don't, I'm just saying, okay, don't keep them lazy. Oh, I'll just go like this. So, continued implementation of the FAL. The FAL has been approved. It's not 100% implemented, so we have to finish that. Pandemic set us back a little bit, but now it's going back and making sure that everything outlined in there, that we are meeting the needs of the FAL. Financial needs for self-government. So, you know, for many of you, I don't know, but we have been working on self-government since 1997. And now we're looking at what exactly we need to run Akwesasne. And I was just in a meeting today with the people from ISP. They have no clue how much it costs to build this brand new business. And so that's the arguments that we're going to have to make in this meeting, is to make sure that, like right now, we can't even get concrete across the bridge. So those are things we have to do. Implementation of quarterly planning sessions for my team to make sure that we're all on the same page. Finalization of our organizational structure, do another department review and staff updates, make sure all of my positions are posted and filled. And then policy overhaul of all of the department, IT, finance, human resource, and communication. And we have to implement a stronger ethical framework for all levels of the organization. And then, as per requirement of the FAO, we need to implement a risk management framework. And then one of the things that we've been looking at is trauma training, because we can tell even now, post-pandemic mental health isn't the greatest. And we need to be, when people come and they're in, we need to be able to talk the situation down and recognize that this person's been through a lot. They need to go with dignity, grace, patience, and be more kind in the way in which we deal with people. So we have to put that back into, and that's part of truth and reconciliation, where our workforce needs to be informed of, well, this person's not acting this way just because there's something that happened, and we need to be more patient with how we service people. From a financial perspective, our accounting system is a bit aged, so we need to do an upgrade in order to meet FAO guidelines and do reporting in a quicker manner. Continuous implementation of electronic fund transfer, continuous implementation of paperless. We have all those needs to have paperless office. We need to use what we're looking for. Review process for efficiency. Are we dragging processes down? Are we taking too long? Is there something, is there ways we can make things better? Review of effectiveness of internal controls. Are our internal controls working properly? Implement new processing cycles and implementation of a fiscal reporting calendar. First Nations have the most reporting, and we have more reporting than a standard municipality. And it's for every dime we get, we have to do about 10 reports for them. I'm exaggerating, but there is a lot of requirements in First Nations for every little thing we do. So for human resources, we need to update our respect in the workplace policy because we are not compliant to the Canada Labor Code. We need to implement individualized learning plans because the only way we can make a better workforce is to invest in professional development. Succession planning, we're a little bit late at this because we did have a lot of exits during the pandemic. And then onboarding. Onboarding isn't a one-week thing, it's an 18-month project that we have to get used to continuous coaching of our employees and our new recruits. Educating and training all of the MCA team on HR policies, transfer all of our personnel files to the document cloud. We're finishing a salary review and compensation project, and that is to bring the entire workforce into market-based, because the philosophy is if all non-unionized employees are only getting paid 70% of the market, we're not attracting them. And then we also have gender-based pay equity that we have to comply with. And then we need to start finding a way to accommodate special needs adults into our workforce. We need to be patient. We need to create these programs to make sure that people who want to work, we have a spot for them. We're upgrading our HR system, which is ADP right now. We have to do general personnel policy updates to make sure we're in compliance with the Canada Labor Code. We have to change our recruitment and selection strategies to make sure we're recruiting the most qualified people for the jobs. And then we're looking at integrating more Mohawk language into the workplace. Like all of our buildings should look like this with the wordings on the wall and the signs on the wall. You know, we don't have that yet, and that's something we need to promote our identity. And then a directory, we wanted to do a Mohawk language speaker recognition event because I think we're diamonds. You know, how many full Mohawk language speakers do we have last? They need to be recognized and embraced. And then directory of Mohawk language and cultural resources. If I want to take a Mohawk language class, where can I go and do that? Where, you know, I'm not sure. So that we're going to build a directory so if people want to learn, they'll have the path to go and learn. And then in the long run, this isn't a tomorrow thing, but we're exploring the hybrid work environment. If somebody's working from home, what rules do they have to follow? And a lot of countries are looking at a 4-day work week. And what will that look like and how will it impact services? And is it something we can do? So it's looking, it's not saying we're going to do it, but the exploration has to be there. And for communications, they're developing a communication strategy for law development. We want to do a community census, and I understand we don't do the Canadian census, but the problem we're having is with future planning, we don't, how many kids do we have on Cornwall Island under the age of 10 years old? I have no clue, you know, so we want to build the programming where it's needed, so we need community data to say, this is what they need in this district, or this is what they need. Or if we want to run a program for 80-year-olds, we know where they are and we know how much money it's gonna cost to run these programs. Community portal, that's similar, mimicking the tribe's community portal, so we can post all of this delicious information on a site for our community to access. Plan for effective communication from Grand Chief and Council. I'm one of those stubborn people that don't go to meetings, I don't read the newspaper, I don't listen to CKWN, and I wasn't on Facebook. So to reach me, it's very difficult, and then also people who tell me what's going on. So we need to solve those problems and be able to reach everybody. And then an innovative community strategy, possibly the development of a community app and an innovative communication plan. For my IT crew, we're looking at upgrading the phone system throughout the organization. We're also looking at implementing two-factor authentication into all of our email addresses and our systems, because hacking is rampant. Again, the organizational restructure, looking at cellular service improvement. And then for fiber to the home, we're figuring out how our organization is going to run on top of that system. Also looking at digitizing all of our archives, implementing e-signatures, upgrading switches and radio infrastructure. So for Department of Finance and Administration, we're looking at revenues 4.8, expenses of 7.5, and a surplus of a deficit of 2.7.
Right.
We'll just have to speak loud.
Okay, I'm not yelling. I'm just trying to speak loud enough for you to hear me. So it might be sounding like a yell, but it's not a yell.
That picks up.
Hello? Okay. Okay, so this is the organizational chart for the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne Mohawk Board of Education with community overseeing council. They elect them. They also elect the Board of Trustees for AMBI, and the Mohawk Council supervises executive director, and the Akwesasne Mohawk Board of Education also supervises the AMBI as well. So the sectors in AMBI are the Ganadaba School with Jessica Rompoint as the principal, G. Snipen School with Tammy Croon as the principal, Akwesasne Mohawk School with Andrea Carpenter as the principal, post-secondary and continuing education with Norma Sunday as the manager, associate director. Early learning is with Lanny Sunday, language and curriculum, Alice King, student services, Denise Jackson, and operational services, Belinda Kustajan. The Akwesasne Mohawk School Board will be engaging in the development of a new 5-year, new 5-year, can you hear me? Okay. A new 5-year strategic plan. Budgets will continue to align to our 4 priority areas: Mohawk language and culture, student success, relationship building, organizational excellence. Service areas are Yokonkio, and their highlights for this year will be finalizing the ministry certification process, completing final steps with the IIQAE. Establish pathways programming, certified interest courses plus LBS travel. Increasing physical space options, trade building will be complete at the end of March 2024, with portables will be delivered in the fall of 2024. Construction of the outdoor classroom has begun and the multi-purpose cultural facility has been designed. Finalizing micro-credential program options with next step sending the ministry for certification. Post-secondary assistance highlights are continuing to increase student outreach and information sessions digitally and in person, providing financial planning sessions for new and continuing students, and hosting orientation for all students electronically and in person. Language grant opportunity for students. Student services highlights will be building relationships with students, staff, and families, expanding intervention programs to address changes in student needs, as well as increasing therapy services such as occupational therapy, speech, and counseling. Training and development of staff to ensure they can support all students. They will be expanding assessment of learning practices to all subject areas. For Head Start, they will be providing more resources for age-appropriate explorations. They will be training for staff on outdoor-based learning and learning through play, and including more knowledge keepers in the classroom to enrich language and culture. For food and after-school services, the partnerships with DCSS was to provide food for all our students. They'll be training for after-school staff on land-based and outdoor education practices. And they will be enriching our early years after-school programming by partnering to provide cultural opportunities. The Gisnina School and AMS will be increasing culture and Mohawk language learning opportunities, and they'll be focusing on student growth and intervention supports that align with the AMBI values. They'll be training on new writing programs to support all learning needs and continuing to increase technology and virtual learning opportunities. Providing mental health and wellness supports in our school communities through partnerships. For Ganadaba School, they will be increasing Mohawk fluency levels across the subject areas and continuing to increase in-class support for language learning. They will be expanding outdoor cultural learning opportunities and focusing on curriculum and resource development to support teachers. They will be developing a calendar of cultural events and hosting cultural events to engage families. And with childcare, they will be developing special needs services and supports and continuing to enhance the Mohawk programming by having a staff member work with language development team. Establishing a new home base for 0 to 6 and expanding land-based learning opportunities. For transportation, they will be updating the handbooks for driver routes and policies. They will be offering bus driver training and opportunities and recruitment of bus and van drivers and monitors. Language and culture, they will be continuing to expand the digitization to new virtual opportunities for students and community to access language. They'll be developing Mohawk picture books and learning kits for early years, developing new social study programs and resources. We'll be expanding music resources, songs, and activities Teacher training focused on next steps for Mohawk language, collaborating with Yoga Heals to develop resources and learning opportunities for adult learners. Cultural workshops with camps to be offered, leading annual cultural celebration, partnering with Yoga Heal and BCSS to construct a community teaching site, which is a multi-purpose culture facility, and development of an cultural calendar. For ANDI operations, they will be finalizing the ANDI policy revisions and administrative framework for each policy, and working to ensure transparent communication, such as website enhancements and community outreach. They'll be continuing to develop partnerships to enhance learning and opportunities, such as with Traveling College Queens, Scientists in School, ACFS, and other local colleges. They'll be entering final stages of the structural readiness and developing a new 5-year strategic plan. So for their budget, their revenue total is 33.6 million, and the expenses are 30.5 million, with special projects of 5.1 million and a deficit of 2,070,000. And so that's the annual presentation. Next one will be public safety.
Public safety, again, Community Council, Mohawk Police Commission, Executive Director, Chief of Police Sean DeLuth, Deputy Chief of Police Leanne O'Brien, Organized Crime Initiative, managed by Blue and Mitchell, Street and Drug Crime Unit, managed by Blue and Mitchell, the State Marine Unit, managed by Dave Thompson. We have Staff Sergeant Lona Dios de Swamp, and then Ambulance Manager Leah Tarbell, and Emergency Measures. So this is our AMPS organizational structure. Okay, Kyra? So as of 23-24, AMPS had an increase in their operational budget, which allowed for additional 6 officers. The annual operating budget is 6.7 million. The funding is ongoing and will increase at a rate of 2.75 until March 2029. The 23-24 quad agreement allows for 30 officers, including the chief of police. And then there was funding secured for community safety officers, which is compliance officers, but that has not flown through yet. So they're waiting for formal confirmation on the funds, and then we can proceed to hire 3 more compliance officers. So there's been a number of different upgrades within AMPS: IT system, network upgrades, security upgrades, video interview equipment, body cams for all patrol officers, in-car cameras, computer upgrades for all our units, improving civilian staff complements. So they're looking at data entry and analysts, and then secures additional funding to hire 4 more SAVE officers to allow for 24/7 rotation on the rivers. No allocation funds for dispatch. This comes directly from the policing budget. For organized crime, the J unit, no significant changes. Agreement expired on March 31st, 2028. This funds 8 AMPS officers and 1 staff sergeant. It is currently 4 vacancy. The state unit, it's 2 bilateral agreements, one with Ontario and one with Quebec. Agreement for the state unit funds 12 officers, and currently there are 4 vacancies. Purchase of specialized equipment to increase surveillance and patrol capacity, capabilities. Increase the Marine team by 4 members to allow for 24/7 patrol. They need equipment upgrades. They're purchasing a new snowmobile, ATVs, and a new Marine unit. Boat and engine upgrades for the older Marine units, and they're looking at enhanced security of their boathouse. So ambulance, one of Leah's crews is to grow our EMTs, to hire drivers and provide them with training and mentorship to become EMTs. Her goal is to have 24 permanent EMTs by the end of the fiscal year. Once this goal is reached, this will allow the ambulance to staff and 1 ambulance in each district. Emergency vehicles, she needs 1 more ambulance to achieve full complement. We pay for that full complement in the OLG funding. The goal is to have 6 ambulances so they can rotate ambulances and give them time to rest. So therefore, there's increasing calls for services and revenue has doubled due to this. 3 staff are currently enrolled in advanced EMT classes and 1 in a paramedic class. 2 staff enrolled as certified lab instructors, and the 2 CLS will help us become self-sufficient in training. So I had this French with Don earlier, and I just can't. Discussion was taking place with Minister Lafreniere to explore funding possibilities because we received very little funding for our services. Emergency measures program moved from executive services into AMPS. The transition went well. With the COVID-19 pandemic showed us we needed additional staff. They currently have 3 emergency measures officers on staff, but there's a lot of training taking place up to speed with requirements for active threat response, which I have to credit Cheryl Jacobs for to get that program on the ground. And some exploring funding opportunities with IST for support in the emergency measures program. So total public safety revenues is 13,300,000, expenses is 15.4, special projects 331, and the $2.4 million deficit is from our ambulance program. The questions are made.
No, ambulance, I thought we were having a busy with the trial.
No, there's no agreement, and that was canceled years ago. Huh? It was canceled years ago.
We're servicing them.
We're servicing our community. Yes.
So the Department of Health. The Department of Health is comprised of Health Advisory Board with council overseeing health, and the ED oversees the director of Department of Health. The 4 sectors in health under health administration are community health, supervised by acting associate director Carol Mitchell, mental health and wellness, supervised by acting associate director Monique Nanolo Oaks, and for clinical care, is supervised by acting associate director Leslie Giro, and for continuous care is supervised by acting associate director Chelsea Swan. Health admin is provides some budget highlights, which are research projects, healthcare equity, recruitment and retention of healthcare professionals, workplace wellness, Department of Health priority surveys, community relations, digital health, accreditation and quality improvement, and online adjudication software for NIHB. For the community health services sector, they provide health information management, enhanced skills and competencies for regulated health professionals, language and cultural integration, Jordan's Principal Program, and post-pandemic response. For mental health and wellness services, land-based healing, traditional medicine, mental health and addictions, enhanced programming, quality improvement and accreditation, mental health wellness teams, supporting our healers, new staff positions, the Hamilton Island Wellness and Cultural Arts Center, and Skahati Lochne Detox Center. For clinical care sectors, clinical care services sector, they are enhancing skills and competencies of regulated health professionals. They're providing medical teaching site for long-term recruitment. Patient navigated programs is incorporated, it's brand new. Virtual appointments and home visits is continuing to occur. A Gominoga Medical Clinic capital project is underway. Team clinic and SNI, mobile clinic initiative, monthly clinic schedule availability, and new space for home and community care. For continuing care sector, we have elder services program implementation, Yucky Suta Lodge upgrades, which is the kitchen renovations, and the Jugonosada enhancements. And the overall budget revenue for Department of Health is 42.2 million. Expenses are 27.8 million. Special projects are 11.8 million with a surplus of 2.5 million.
So the Director of Health wanted us to let you know that there will be a health fair on May 9th, and they are doing pre-cancer screening, so she wanted to make sure he's all, it's going to be here in this building. So Akwesasne Department of Justice, again, Community Council, Executive Director, our Director of Justice, Akwesasne, our community, the Akwesasne Community Justice Program is managed by Rita Swope. The Akwesasne Mohawk Court Administrator is Rosebud Cook. Akwesasne Representative and Advocacy Program, Kim Ransom Hearn, and then Legislative Services, Allison Thompson. So for the justice, they're working on a multi-year funding agreement for Indigenous support worker, diversion justice worker, lagoon rider, aftercare, and victim support worker. Annual funding renewal for early release parole and native inmate liaison. Rotating training for ANS officers and diversion, native inmate liaison is early release. Negotiating for funding for one full-time position with the Ministry of Justice in Quebec for Indigenous support worker and lagoon rider. They host a community justice conference in Akwesasne, increase the capacity of the Section 84 services from part-time to full-time, and they're hosting an event for victims of crime and updating their working community. For the court negotiations with Canada, Ontario, Quebec, in recognition of the Akwesasne Mohawk Court, training for additional justices for the justice of the peace by funding from the Department of Justice Canada, updating court regulations, expansion of the Akwesasne Court to handle additional civil matters, dispute resolution, skin orders, and Akwesasne Review Commission. Justice Administration, they're looking at strategic planning for the department and community needs, working with council on legislative priorities, review of existing legislation for amendments, community needs, and legislation needs under the self-government agreement. Creation of, for Justice Administration, continued creation of a manual for Akwesasne court justices and a resource guide based on court regulations, policies, the review commission authorities, and past Akwesasne court laws. Enforcement issues of our community laws. We want to make our community laws enforceable. Funding increase of $185,000 for I forgot what was that. Child's rights and Akwesasne Child's Rights and Responsibility Law through the Child and Family Services Capital Funding. Family support court worker funding was secured, but the position was not filled. Partnership with university and law students for student interns. ARA, Akwesasne Representative and Advocacy Program, provides band representation for Akwesasne children and families living off reserve when a child protection matter arises. Applies to any Mohawks of Akwesasne child and family anywhere in Canada. Advocates and liaises on behalf of the family with child protection agencies, ensures cultural continuity for the child and family from the opening of the file to its close. The goal of ARAP is to keep children with family and to be connected to the community. Also assist in client applications for Indian status registration and Mohawks of Akwesasne membership. In the case of ongoing care, the ARAP will also provide culturally relevant workshop activities and supports to families. So the Akwesasne Justice Department overall budget revenue is 4.9 million, expenses is 4.9 million, and they see a slight little deficit of 22,000.
Department of Infrastructure, Housing and Environment, comprised of the director, Leslie Capino, and the programs are housing, supervised by Charmaine Powell, manager, water and wastewater, supervised by manager John Adams, roads, supervised by manager Stanley Jacobs, capital projects, building maintenance, supervised by Clayton Benedict and Anthony Benedict, and environment, supervised by manager Katie Sunday. So the infrastructure, housing, and environment administration provides the continuing prioritizing upgrades and improvements to infrastructure and community administration facilities while actively seeking funding. The initiate capital capacity building through the recruitment of additional staff to align the increased demand for services and enhance department efficiency. They'll assess and implement operational reviews of our services to ensure operational expectations are met They provide professional development and training for all staff. They also develop a master plan for site servicing, future developments and infrastructure by working with various MCA departments involved. The MCA capital plan will be updated this year, including traffic and roads studies for all three districts. Further advance, our lobbying efforts for capital investments are aligned with the 10-year lobbying strategy and the 20-year capital plan. They'll establish effective communication channels to intake community requests for services related to DIHE. So for the roads program, we'll be maintaining the seasonal road maintenance, repairs, snow clearing, ditch drainage, street light repairs, and other necessary services to meet the required services for the community. They'll initiate vehicle and equipment replacement strategy for roads fleet, and they're currently seeking funds to replace the various old equipment. They're committed to ongoing jurisdictional table discussions with various funding agencies and stakeholders, including the Ministry of Transportation Ontario, Ministry of Transportation Quebec, and Indigenous Services Canada, as well as Canada and Council. And their main goal is to collaborate effectively, seeking funds for road maintenance and projects. For building maintenance, they continue to provide ongoing maintenance, replacements, and retrofits for MCA buildings to uphold reliability and cleanliness and safety for staff and visitors. They continue to work to assess and implement the operational review of DIHE services and service agreements to ensure full operation expectations are met. And they'll implement a strategic asset management software and policy to promote best practices, integrating asset management with budgeting, operation, maintenance, and infrastructure planning across the DIHE sectors. The water and wastewater program, they will continue to provide the community with safe drinking water, as well as effective treatment and disposal of wastewater. They provide continuous annual repairs and upgrades as dictated by the asset condition reporting system and annual performance reporting inspections. They provide water main connections to various homes within the districts, and the project is gearing up based on the list we currently have. They will be obtaining an engineering consulting firm to assist with the multiple projects and provide drawings based on long service lines to multiple homes. And this project is geared towards homes with bad wells. They're looking at expanding the water distribution to the District of Akwesasne and updating the sanitary master plan. So for capital projects, the updates are for this 24-25 that are underway presently. Our Oakensburg, Akwesasne Fire Department Station 3, a new building design is complete. Community survey is forthcoming along with funding source to be determined. MCA space needs 6 design projects to obtain tender-ready projects is underway and are at various stages. This includes the following. Number 1, Sunday warehouse building. New design is underway with the intent to be tender-ready this summer. Construction project dollars will need to be allocated. Number 2, SNI admin building. A new design development will be underway soon to be tender-ready. Number 3, Gallinoga Medical Clinic and MCA Records Building. Request for proposals for design is underway. Akwesasne Elementary School AMS additions and upgrades. A request for proposals is also underway for that project. The Hamilton Island Healing Wellness and Cultural Center feasibility study, an RFP is underway for that one. And the last one, Community Hub and Cultural Center feasibility study and preliminary design is underway without RFP for some. So for capital projects continuing, Hamilton Island Bridge, a detailed design is underway and design is funded by MTO. Design for this bridge will introduce planning discussions for new bridges for SNI. New SNI school preliminary design is almost complete and consultants to then proceed with detailed design. Capital plan update is underway with J2G consultants, and this includes traffic study and roads needs study. A roads department and new sand salt building for Gallinoga, and the detailed drawings are complete, and we are now seeking construction dollars from Indigenous Services Canada. The Nautical Beach project is tender ready. DIHE is seeking funds to cover construction costs. The Arena Recreation Project feasibility study, a preliminary layout and estimate specifically being worked on. DIT will be implementing various road projects. The objective is to complete multiple projects at once using an engineering company of record who will complete tender-ready designs, and then DIT will seek funding for each project. The Snide District, Yohio Road and Extension, Fisherman's Lane and Dave Sunday Drive, Sugar Bush East, Phillips Road, McDonough Road, and James E. Memorial Road will be worked on. Elanco District, Sweetgrass Lane, Third Street, Johnson Street, and Dudley Street. And for Cohanoga District, it's Montgomery Road North, Harvard Road, Wissahickon, White Road, Point Road, Martin Road, Island Road to Thompson Road, and Taxi Road. For housing program administration, they will be providing quality and affordable housing for Akwesasne community and to manage the resources to provide the housing services. MCA loans are for new construction and upgrade. The MCA Bank of Montreal loan guarantee are ongoing. Elders Emergency Repair Program is also ongoing. Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation is for residential rehabilitation assistance programs. RAP, Emergency Repair Program is ERP, and Home Adaptation Senior Independence is another program funding. And Housing Rental Fund for handicap is also ongoing program. For rental unit and rent-to-own units, they have 107 rental units, 71 rent-to-own units. And Indigenous Services Canada Loss Servicing is the Hawthorne Road Extension. For CMHC repair renovation projects for KRA and Sweetgrass Manor. And CMHC repair renovation projects for 25 rental or rent-to-own units over 3 years. Akwesasne Community Trust has provided funds for elder home repair project. ACFS home renovation project is also on their list to work on. Construction of 15 3-bedroom units on Hawthorne Road. For the environment program, they're maintaining their commitment to state targets in areas of GIS and environmental assessments, natural resource management, and conservation. They've been working with the federal, provincial, and community levels to garner feedback on environmental concerns and raising funds to outfit the environment lab that is in place with equipment to build capacity to better serve the community. To continue to source new funding opportunities to essential services such as waste coordination to offset MCA expenses and environment program deficit. The shoreline restoration and erosion mitigation is also ongoing with several projects. The fish identification and near shore survey is also ongoing, funded by OPG. And the Aboriginal Fund for Species at Risk is also an ongoing project to work on sturgeon, sturgeon and other species at risk, and such as black ash stewardship and other species. So the budget for DIHE is, the grand total is about 1.4 million. Revenue with expenses of 13.2 million and special projects of 80,000 and a deficit of 930,000.
Economic development, again, community council executive director, economic development director, Kyle Cargo, Mark Martin, arena manager. They manage the Peachtree Mall, Thorn Leader, Thompson Island cultural coordinator, and then they also are responsible to the tobacco and cannabis compliance. So some of the projects going on in economic development, funding support, small business grant, indigenous initiative, for Quebec, and then funding for training. Special projects on demand public transit, hydroponic growing containers, procurement and improvement telecommunications, completion of the fiber to the home project. We need to do the main gateway connection, going over the last mile. And then go back and ensure all of the landscaping for that project is done. They're working with Rogers Telecom for a new cell phone tower in Akwesasne. And then they also do the Peachtree Trade Center administration, and they will be reinitializing the Akwesasne local market. For the arena, the continued maintenance of the facility, upgrade indoors and out, special projects including new splash pad, a playground, stationary fitness station, seeking funding for a building expansion. Major expenses in the sidewalk, HRV, HVAC system, and a RBC, which is sewage. Thompson Island priorities include preservation of culture, education, awareness, healing and well-being, land stewardship, social unity, and youth empowerment and leadership development. Special projects for Thompson Island is water taxi, an additional bunkhouse in the pavilion, and major expenses are solar batteries, any deck and stair replacement. Tobacco, cannabis, they constantly review applications for new licensing and social responsibility fee collection. But currently there are 13 cannabis retailers and 3 cultivators. For economic development, the fund anticipated funding is 3.1 million, expenses 3.8 million, special projects about 120 for an anticipated deficit of 770. And that concludes our presentation.
No.
All right, thank you so much to our Director of Finance Administration and our acting Executive Director for the presentation. We have, what time we have here? We got about 35 minutes of for question and answer. So we'll open the floor now based on the presentation that you have received. All of you have the packets of the slides that's gone through. Some modifications, actually, as was mentioned, but predominantly all the information is there. So we'll open it now to the floor to the community for questions.
I realized that we've never done the census for Akwesasne, but to my knowledge, isn't our census, isn't that what gives us the amount of money we get from the federal government?
So
And the number of people that are registered or?
yeah, so a couple of things. We have actually done the census once, I think, one year ago. And is that correct? 1 year? One's rotation of the census we had done in Akwesasne. We did have a community presentation on it and to see what the feedback was based on that. But based on the numbers that were collected, it wasn't really any data that could be relied on. And also, in order for the census, the way it generally works is that you need a couple, rotations of it to be able to start getting some real aggregate data that's going to be useful. So basically, for our funding, most of it is driven by our Indian registry, which is inactive. So the purpose of the reference to our own census is like was used is like we don't know how many children under the age of 18 live on Fort Wayne. We don't know how many live in just 9. We don't know how many live in Benada for planning purposes, things like that. Overcrowding and how many people in one home. We don't have generally, we have idea that there's homes that are overcrowded, but we don't have, are there 4, 2 families in a house made for 1? Are there, 3 families in the side, things like that. I mean, we collect a lot of data, but it's only for reporting purposes for our funding. So the census gives you a lot more scope, and so that's really about the census that we have done. And there's some value in it, but it's definitely a project that we need to look at financing doing ourselves. Just before I move on that, the challenge with participating in the external census, right, is that data all feeds into Canada, right? And so if we were to do our own census, we would keep that data ourselves. Right? We have the control and access to that. Doing well, thanks.
Hey, I just wanted to know about that property acquisition team. Like, what's the process, making a decision on the capital? Like, Sunday warehouse. Say everything's community oriented, community has no input. And how much you pay for that, that warehouse? What is it used for? What's its intentions? If you done any further on it? The property acquisition team is together, should they involve the community discussion to see what they feel of purchasing this stuff? Or any other stuff?
So the design of the property acquisition team, which we refer to as the PAT team, is that there are technical people made up from the MCA to advise, council on whether or not a purchase property purchase is a good move to make, right? So we look at, housing's on there, infrastructure on there, finance, the members of council, members of OVS to take an analysis of, if there's a purchase that's brought to us. Or that we're looking to do ourselves. Generally, the PAT team is a technical team that advises the council.
What about community?
For the
What about
most,
community input?
Yeah.
You're talking $400,000, $600,000. Out of our budget, our funding. Why isn't that the community input issue?
yeah. So I mean, it's a double-edged sword on that, right? I mean, that's also about us buying property for community expansion, right? And so, all the purchases have been made for MCA programs, to expand the programs, to meet the needs of the community via program, right? I mean, the director said earlier that, we're out of space. We're out of space for our offices. We're out of space for programming. So most property purchases have been designed around expansion of programs. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done on property acquisition, buying property outside the community for the purpose of expanding our land base. And we've had lots of conversations about this. It's not actually about the money aspect. It's about the planning purpose, the planning part that we don't have plans in place yet. We can buy, 100 acres in Dunedin. We can buy 100 acres outside of Cornwall. But the thing is, after that, what are we gonna do? Where's the plans? Where's the housing? Where's the services that we don't have this plan?
Shouldn't it be a community input?
Well, they're definitely, for larger purchases, yes, and I think that through budgeting purposes, there has to be development plans, how to do that. The challenge in buying property though, right? Is that if we let people know we're looking for 100 acres in, say, Dundee, all of a sudden, those $2,000 an acre, they find out that the MCA is looking to buy 100 acres or 1,000 acres, now they're $5,000 an acre, right? And the same thing happens in this community too, though, right? I mean, the MCA is looking to buy some property within the community, which normally would be, to sell to yourself, maybe $5,000 lot. The MCA is now paying, $25,000. So there's always that management of what's reasonable for purchases. So we have to balance that in our process.
I just had one more question. The Justice Building, are you renting that office space? Or are you getting by the building?
No, we are renting office space outside of the community, yes. Okay. Right.
Been a lot of now. So I have a question. I think that Arrow HDR meeting here at Caledonia, 2 weeks back. There was a community member who shared that she was on, she resides on property as part of the Longhorn lands, where she's gonna be getting, land that's already in use to turn back. She indicated that it's her responsibility as well as other Longhorn landowners that make the surveying fees. So my question is, the OLG monies that you're gonna be allocating to the Seaway Committee for 350,000, would that go to assist those community residents that need to get, land resurveyed in order to make that happen?
Yeah, so from a budgetary perspective, that's what we're here to talk about. The Seaway money is specifically for litigating and taking Canada to court for the case that's been there since the 60s. We currently don't have any money set aside for surveying. There have been at times where Indigenous Services have given us some money to say about $50,000 or what have you, and have said, go settle, take this money and try to resolve some of your outstanding estates or some of your boundary issues, but it's not regular that we get that kind of money. So the answer to your question, we don't have any money set aside for that purpose. Go ahead.
To follow up to that Seaway, claim budget item, in the budget, it says that you're planning to spend 948,000 on Seaway claim in the next fiscal year. What is that paid for? What's the breakdown of that huge number? Because it's even more than nation building work as well, like, so I'm just wondering, how come it's so high?
Couple reasons, it's a lot to litigate, this is litigation, so we're gonna pay lawyers to go to court. But because there hasn't been active litigation in the Seaway case in probably about, 7 years. There's been trial prep happening prior to that. So what's now gonna happen, because we did have a settlement from Canada, Canada made an offer of $45 million to the community and said, we'll resolve the Seaway claim for 45 million. It went to referendum, which was rejected. So the only option now is, well, there's a couple options. It's either the Mohawk Council goes back to Canada and says it's been rejected, put more money on the table, which could happen still. Or the community council says, we're abandoning it altogether. We're not gonna do anything with this anymore, or we go back to court, right? And so going back to court from a financial perspective, we budgeted that amount, about $1 million. And what it will be predominantly, because we'll be now going into this next year or this current year, will be preparation, will be trial prep, and we'll be getting studies that had been done, 10, 15 years ago, updated. And we have to pay all of the experts around certain study areas to update their studies. It's all trial prep, well, almost like pre-trial prep. So it costs $1 million.
Do you have a rough idea of the accumulated total amount of money MCA has put towards the Seaway claims since the last 15 years?
It's in legal fees, I believe it's around $4 to $5 million that's been paid. And remember, we've never gone to court. We've always been trial prep. There's been, expert witnesses. There's been depositions of some community elders. We've never actually gone to litigate in court where we present our case, Canada presents theirs. So that was one of the factors in considering the settlement. What is it going to cost us in litigation fees to pay the lawyers, the experts, and is it, what's that balance? Thank you. What's that? And we can.
So cannabis social responsibility reserves, restricted, why? That's what, why is it restricted? It's restricted because in the cannabis law, it said they're going to use it for a specific purpose. So we put it aside, and when council decides the purpose they're going to use it for, then it's going to be applied there. So we have to keep it aside. It can't just go into unrestricted funds.
But we don't have a law.
Well, even the interim one.
Interim regulations had some language in it that talks about use.
Regulation is different.
Yes.
Okay, so
So
correct.
doesn't usually have a right to see the regulation, which I haven't seen.
It's on the website. Yeah, and yes, we can get.
We have it.
No. Well, I mean, if you want really briefly context in that, was because Canada was implementing their federal law and we had nothing, right? So in a very hurry, we implemented a law so that could govern the sale of cannabis. That's why there was no the consultation is in law development, which happened and there's, was rejected by the community.
So in essence, then we are going to continue enforcing the regulation, which the community got in.
Yes.
So are you collecting money from the retailers on how much they're selling your store? And they believe as well.
Yes.
We were told with the regulation.
Yes, and that's how we have the $251,000 in the social responsibility fund.
And is that continuing to be updated and we're
So that,
collecting on a regular basis?
That I don't know. So with the presentation, presentation that we done is what was on the reserve, presentation, on the reserve slide, and that's what we have collected thus far.
Today,
Yes,
from
To-
inception, including the last fiscal year.
yes, yes. Because none of, every fee that's been collected none of it has been spent. It's been all reserved.
So can you explain what the fee is? Is it just giving them a license or is it the collection?
There's a licensing fee, and then there's a fee that's paid per grant. Sold. Okay. The other question that we have here is the Akwesasne Community Funds. Heather, you stated that we must do a call to certain organizations. So basically, we have in our Casino-rama or OLG presentation slide, we have some money allocated in there. And Heather said that we would do a call out, and that exactly what we're going to be doing is the community fund call out happens every year, generally in April, May, which is a new fiscal year, where community organizations can apply to the community fund to support their activities. One of the other items that is on the budget on that presentation as well is the culture and language as well. There's an allocation for that activity. A separate call out will happen for activities specifically that support language and culture. So we'll have two call outs happening. The Akwesasne Community Fund call out and the culture and language call out.
During my presentation, I made a mistake and said just certain organizations. It's not certain organizations, it's just other organizations. So that was a correction needed.
Generally not, they're generally nonprofits. I mean, and this, the design of the community fund was for the hockey teams, the lacrosse teams, you know, the volunteer groups that are looking for money to, you know, do their activities or certain activities throughout the year. The other question is DIG capital projects. Is there supposed to be a position employee in that position?
Yeah, it's the capital projects. Yes, there is a position required there and that's our engineer. So we do have to post for an engineer on the org chart where it said capital projects.
Right. The capital plan being updated this year, 2024, will the community be consulted?
Yes, the community needs to be consulted.
Yeah, so the capital plan is a plan that we've developed in the past, talks about the needs of the community from an infrastructure perspective. It's actually required as well from Indigenous Services as part of our submissions, and there is a community consultation part from that as well. They'll also use some of the strategic plan material and the community comprehensive plan, which we have material back there for both of us. These department budgets were done with the directors, so why are the directors not required to present their budgets? So as the. Sure.
Okay. So I take full responsibility for that. When I'm the one who dragged the directors to the budget meeting 3 years ago, and I thought it would be a team adventure, but it was never a requirement of their job, you know. So this year it was whose job it's a requirement is myself and the executive director. So we're trying to go back and fall back in line. So it was my responsibility, you know, I invited them the first year and then it started becoming a habit. And if it's not a part of the job requirement to do this, it's part of our job requirements to do that. So it was my error in the first place to have them come the first time. And I have full responsibility for them.
But that's been a practice for many, many years, only of having directors come and present. It's always been that way. And it gives the opportunity to ask the little details. And when directives are given for these directors to come and consult with the community and they refuse, there's something wrong with the accountability and transparency. It's on good faith that these directors, we never had an issue with a director to refuse to come to the community and consult with them on the needs. So it's just very saddening and disturbing that we cannot hold anybody accountable when it comes to these budgets.
So
I'd like to know what the 6 projects are, the internal 6 projects that the community doesn't know or are aware of that's happening in our district.
So a couple things on that, right? I mean, so the plans that are presented are budgets, right? So that's and a lot of the language that is included in there talks about what they're going to do, and this is the money that's needed to do that, and deliver the services that they normally deliver, right? So we've heard some innovation, they're doing different projects, but they'll still continue to deliver the services that they have. The budget, what is being presented today is the budget that's already been approved. So that sets out the financial numbers needed to deliver programming for the next year. And so the senior financial officer under the financial administration law is the one that prepares the budget in consultation with the directors, with the finance committee, but is the one who's ultimately responsible for the presentation of the budget to council. Council accepts the budget, and now the budget has been presented to you. So as far as community priorities, right, I mean, it's driven through a couple of ways, right, is via the, council priorities, strategic plan priorities, community comprehensive priorities. So, if there are questions about more detailed questions about what these specific projects are, I mean, your members of council are willing and here to, facilitate those conversations with the respective departments. So with budgets, what will happen as well throughout the year is that, new monies will be announced either by the provincial governments, or we'll get some monies from, various organizations or the federal government that will start a whole new initiative that wasn't, sometimes planned in what we presented to you, that, will roll out through the year. So I mean, what we're presenting today is the financial plan, what's needed over the next 12 months and the new initiatives that we're going to do. I acknowledge what you're saying. This is after the fact, right? I mean, so some of the development, I'm described to you how those priorities come about and meeting the needs of.
So your last slide, it said additional questions, please reach out to them. So the process is we can email the directors if we have a specific question. But is there a timeline for them to respond back to community members? Do we CC the ED on it? Do we CC council on it so that we get a prompt response?
Yeah, the process would ideally be is that, you reach out to either the executive director directly or a member council and via the executive director with the executive director. If there is a direct contact made with department director, then yes, their supervisor is the executive director and they need to be there. Is there a timeline? Unfortunately, no. I mean, so there's nothing that says that, when you get an email, you have to respond to it within 24 hours, 48 hours, a week, 2 weeks. We do have service standards in the organization. We do have a complaints process that's designed around the level of service you've gotten. So those are some of the mechanisms that can be used for replies. But unfortunately, we don't have a policy that says community inquiry may answer within 7 weeks.
Do you not have a published standard for phone response to voicemail or response to email? That's been publicized. I've seen it.
We have service standards that council endorsed, and is an expectation of the organization to uphold those standards. You can't, I mean, that's a double end. That's a double edged, right? You can't make people smile when you answer the phone. That's good etiquette, but they don't. So I mean, yes, so we go over here, in the back first.
Our smart district meeting, we were told we're gonna get our answer, they would love it, from people running the programs, and none of them are here. Who lied to my smart chief? Who told them the program manager was gonna be here today? You? And I told Abraham's gonna be talking all night.
I'll take the blame for everything, that, so.
I want to. They told.
There was the finance director mentioned earlier that, there was an oversight on that and that she's responsible for the presentation of the numbers to the community. That's what we've done tonight.
Why? Who told them they were gonna?
I can't.
They're right there.
That's your members of council. Okay, well, you can speak to them about it and.
Why didn't you tell us they were gonna be here?
Go ahead in the back there, Okay, so, yeah,
Oh, you know me.
I was going to, but,
Take it easy. All right, so how many directors are here?
two,
One, which one?
there's an associate,
Well, I know there's
Yeah,
be,
two.
but like, where's the other ones? You know, where's, even though they're saying they're supposed to present. The other ones could be here in faith, you know, good faith, you know, like they would sit there and support Heather and, I don't know the other lady's name. Don. But why aren't they here? You know, here we find out that there was a director's meeting yesterday. And is that where it was decided, or today or yesterday, I don't know, where it was decided that they weren't coming, because you still posted on Facebook, so your communication, people need to be fired. You know, I mean, they can't even work my. Grand chief, I don't think, man.
I ask you to please be respectful
I am,
to our staff here, thank you.
I didn't say anybody's name, just yours.
Well, you changed your hat.
I forgot your hat.
He's telling me he's bringing me one of those hats for me, but he never gets.
But. You know, like I appreciate the finance director's work. It's hard work. But to juggle all these people, you know what I mean? It shouldn't be. I mean, she's not the ED, you know, like, and Don seems to just read the big words and Heather reads all the small words, you know, or long words. But it's not right, because you still posted on your Facebook page or your announcement to the community that the directors will be in attendance to give this presentation. You know, unless you believe that they're incompetent, you know, because I was coming here to, you know, talk to Kylie, because I think she's incompetent, first of all.
I ask that you please be respectful
Well,
to staff.
that is, you know, she stood here and lied to the community, saying that there was no money being spent from the Mohawk Council in regards to fiber to the home. And then to come to find out that she's been broke since December. And that you gave her a $2 million check. You know, that's why I came here. And other people have different things why they came here, to see these directors, who we don't see ever. You know, we don't see them at district meetings, we barely see chiefs at district meetings. So this was our opportunity, and, you know, the Abrams. You know, you're in charge of sound, lights, cameras, you know, like, I applaud you. You know, but where are they? Why are they here, and why are they able to not be here?
So the purpose of tonight's presentation is to present the budget that's been accepted by council to the community. And a decision was made that the two directors that are here are going to be the ones that are presenting it.
But our directors should know their budgets, right? They should be able to be here.
They do know their budgets, yes, yeah.
But how do we know that? I think your word for it, you're a politician.
They've developed it in collaboration with the executive director and the director of finance, so. I can't wave a wand and they're gonna be here, so I hear what you're saying, we understand your discontent with it, it was raised already, and, you know, for next year's purposes. There's obviously feelings of, you know, people want to, ask some questions to the senior leadership of the MCA. People want to, you know, perhaps hold people accountable, but at the end of the day, every person working for the Mohawk Council is an employee and works for the organization. They serve the community, but they work for the organization. So, you know, I mean, is it fair that, you know, to bring a member of our staff, whether it's senior leadership or frontline in here, to subject them to, you know, derogatory remarks? I would say no, and there's probably some liability as being an organization that they shouldn't. Now, you know, council, we deal with these things quite often. You know, so, you know, these decisions are made for certain purposes. The law says one thing, says who develops the budget, who presents it, and that's what we're doing tonight.
Okay, so why not mail? You know, I mean, we're trapped.
I think the question's been asked and answered. I'm satisfied with the answer.
these people are the ones sitting at that front table are the ones that we hold accountable for what's happening in the organization. I have no problem going to that director directly, asking for a time to sit down and visit with him and ask the questions that I have to ask. That's what should be happening. The director's door should be open to the community members to come in and ask your questions. There's nothing wrong with that, and that's being civil. Thank you.
Thank you. There was another hand here. Okay, go ahead.
You used a lot of acronyms. I'm not familiar with a lot of them. Do you have a list somewhere where I can find those?
We do, whether it's updated, I don't know, but we can definitely get that.
Okay.
If there's any that's burning right now and you want to ask,
No.
we can answer it.
Nothing burning there.
My apologies that we use so many acronyms. Go ahead.
And second, can you define, special projects? Is there a list for that as well? Because you mentioned special projects a lot, and to me, it's a wide range of things. If you can narrow it down, that'd be great.
In what context?
Just in terms of like budget, $9 million special projects,
Okay.
special projects. This, special-
It's just like outside operations, outside of like,
Which would include what?
that's even bad. And so you have, you have your regular salary, benefits, office supplies, travel, so you'll have your program operations and special projects are the other costs, like, for example, basic needs, under the CSP, the basic needs is on the special projects, so there's $6 million special projects and basic needs. In Andy, there's special project, we had this discussion earlier, special projects is, we pay for all of our high school kids to go to Cornwall. So there's 2.6 million in there for special projects, and then it's all of our post-secondary funding for our kids going to college. So it's probably a bad title. If you can suggest a better title, we could change all of those forms. And this is one of the things too, it's a learning, right? Say, no, don't use that. It'd be better for us, like, don't use acronyms. And it'd be better for us if you, maybe even, use a different title. So for a lot of that, like, okay, so welfare was that, is there any other specific ones you're looking for?
Not right off the top of my head.
So
I have to go through your-
It's, and then under the health, we flow through money to the IFN, Independent First Nation, that's a special project, so we just flow that money through, there was 1.4 in there, and then the rest of that is our non-insured dollars. So it is probably a poor title that we need to change.
All right, good. We're here in the front, there was a hand here somewhere.
Like, we went to a meeting for the beach for the nautical, they said they had the money, then when you were just going through it, they said they're looking for money now. So what happened to the money that was allocated?
I was talking to the director of community and social services, and that's exactly what I said. I said, I thought we already MCR'd this project. So the money is there and it has been MCR'd, so I don't know why the director of infrastructure, housing and environment has need money, because there is already an MCR that has not been rescinded that allocates funding for that. So it's just a correction that we need on our part.
Can you add a pickleball?
So just, I guess kind of the question before the special project, right? I mean, that would be a special project where, we're budgeting for the upgrading the beach. Some money comes available for, pickleball courts, that's a special project, it's not always planned, but that's, so back in the middle, and then I go to over here to the left.
Well, for Heather, so after you mentioned internal projects, we were informed that there were 6 projects that were happening. I want to know what these projects are.
They're on page 33.
33?
So it states needs 6 projects. These are these 6 projects underneath. So we did a 6-project design project, and one is the Sunday warehouse, because like somebody said, we bought a warehouse, what are we doing with it? So we're actually looking at putting the Yohahio Fab Lab in there. We're actually looking at relocating our people in Cornwall from Justice back onto the reserve. We're also looking at a teen clinic, because Yohahio will be operating there, so we'll be able to draw more younger people into a clinic. And some touchdown space for OVS. And other place to go there, housing OVS, to have service the district of Snai, because Snai is our biggest district, is becoming our biggest district, and we need more services down there. The Snai admin building, that plan has been on the books for a very long time.
So this will replace, the building I'm in, admin 4, Angus Mitchell, and that will bring administration to the corner of Yohahio Road and
That's
Snipe
where
Road.
they.
Yes, that's where they, okay. The Gawanoga Medical Clinic, we have, the medical clinic is not fit to serve, you know, we need an upgrade there, we need more space. And I had self-serving purposes, I said, can I pack a archive building onto the back because we're out of space for archives. The Akwesasne, AMS addition and update, what we found is AMS is just packed to the bones. They are designing a $98 million, school for SNI, but we also need more space on Cornwall Island. So they're looking from K to grade 8 in SNI and K to grade 8 on Cornwall Island. The Hamilton Island, Healing Wellness and Cultural Facility.
Is that her house?
Oh, she doesn't. It's just to start getting, like we said, we need to go back and embrace our culture and our identity and our language. So, that's what they're looking at, is putting a wellness center on Hamilton Island. These are pipe dreams, but our thing is the money falls down all the time. Our philosophy is money falls down all the time, and you'll notice now, all of these applications coming down, it'll say for shovel-ready design projects. And if we don't have shovel-ready design projects on the shelf, then that means we're not ready to go. So we have none in our repertoire. So when we have that and money comes up, we'll be saying, here you go, here you go. And then the community hub and cultural feasibility study, that's going to be a community hub for youth services, somewhere for kids to go and hang out. And that'll be, that's the one we described where it's going at the end of Wade LaFrance. And we're looking at putting, that's mostly a child and family services, area.
Where they hold up this.
Ways, but we own, there's enough way down, past the old dump, there's enough land there for 200 homes. So we're trying to actually get ahead of the game. So those are the 6 design projects.
Over here, but
Thank you.
no, come back.
So just for clarification, now that we're on that project stuff, so budget clarification, EIAG presented that capital projects list, right? So they had a list up there. So my question is, they're not all approved for 2024, 25, that list, correct? As you just mentioned, they gotta be shovel ready.
The design work is funding the design,
On the list,
not the actual building. You're gonna have to go find some that. But like I said, we should have these designs ready to go. So when if we get an, I've seen one a few months ago, and it said for shovel ready designs, and it's like we didn't have our stuff together to go and apply for it. And I don't know if it's a tactic, but I'd like to be proactive instead of reactive.
okay, so with that list having been presented, put up there, so during the community consultation process, what and who determines when those priorities can be shifted or changed, like you said? And I'm gonna give the example of what was brought up at the meeting here of Belvin recreation, right? So if we had hypothetically a community consultation and the need was identified that we need a new Belvin recreation, and how does it get on the list of being coming one of the top 10 so that we could have the plan done and it could become shovel ready for FY 24-25?
It's, the arena recreation project is looking to add on to the arena as recreation center, and it's on page 34. So it is under consideration. We know this is one of the oldest recreation centers on the reserve, and it is in dire need of nothing, especially if we want to take out, more planning activities for kids.
Let's, yeah, right here.
Yeah, I have no questions actually.
The first thing, Heather, you said you're talking about shovel-ready Class A estimates, having it to, you're losing out on applying for funding because one of the criteria is has to be Class A. So let's take going over recreation. So on page 34, you see it, going over recreation, arena, feasibility study, preliminary design, layout and estimate. Before we even get to a Class A estimate, we need to do a Class C. right? Because that's gonna be your RFP, they're gonna come in, the planning committee, the project team. They're asking what the needs are, what the activities will be, they're looking for data. So how long will it take to get from a class C to a class A shovel-ready estimate? Are we talking years? And how many years are we talking?
I can't answer that, I'm not an engineer.
Okay, well, I think can answer
We're
that.
gonna take that and we're gonna ask Leslie that question.
And is that like a director that can answer it? You can't, but
No, I'm not sure, I know it feels like forever, but, you know, and it depends on participation, but to be honest, we're having trouble finding engineers, finding accounting firms, we're having trouble getting people to the reserve.
so maybe it was a year or maybe 2 years ago, when you did have the director at SNI doing this very presentation, right?
It was last year.
Yeah, and I asked the same question then too. And wanted to know when and how does it go on direct it on the capital plan. So at the time, and then actually in January or February of this year, we had a general meeting and there was a presentation and the chiefs were presenting on the space needs. And on there, it said that there was a youth hub recreation center for SNI. And, okay, but it didn't say SNI, it said Cornwall, it didn't say anything actually. And so I just wanted clarification that it was, and confirmation that it was gonna be for Cornwall. So we're just wondering, what are we looking at?
Both of those projects are on the list, the youth hub for SNI and because the youth hub and the new ACFS building are the same thing. So, and then the arena upgrades with the recreation facility is on the list too.
That's just new, right? Yeah,
Well,
Yeah.
to be honest, I've been crying about it for a while,
so that's
but to
question.
get from C to A, I can't answer that question.
Yeah, so that would have been a good question for the director, right? And we met with the directors, two of the directors actually, both don't know direct, so we're fully aware of what it's gonna take from class C to get to a class A shovel ready. We're just wondering about time now, because Governor Direct has been very, very patient, and the Governor community has been very patient. And so we just want to know, how do we get prioritized? How do we get put to the top of the list? You know, because we're just as important as everybody else. I think. You know? That's all I'm gonna say.
All right, thank you. Are there any other questions on the budget presented? I'll go here and then we'll back over here. Oh. And then back.
I'm sorry, this is not a budget question.
Well, I
Just
can.
like to sneak this in, please. Council, is it any time in the near future that you guys are going to look back together and not to have to be chasing chiefs if you want to talk to them? Is there any time in the near future?
I mean, we're answering only budget questions, but we do budget for 12 spots for chiefs, and there are 12 spots at the admin building, admin 1 building.
Are you guys gonna get back together?
There are 12 spots at admin 1. Over here, but this in the front first and then.
I only had a question, because we're talking about deficits and surpluses and whatnot. One of your US holdings, count towards those, deficits or surpluses?
One of the what?
US holdings like land acquisition, reserve territory.
We only have one piece of land on the US side, and that's on Drum Street, and that was bought a long time ago, and I really don't remember why. She might, yeah, she would.
I remember we were trying to trade with the tribe. They could have that 11 acres if they gave us that parking lot at Akwesasne. Right now, we're renting that, right? Right, so you just pay rent. Otherwise,
The Boys and Girls Club a long time ago. They donated it.
You're good?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
I just have a question maybe for clarification, because I know I had asked before with respect to the public safety department. The initiatives that it may go well into further operating plans somewhere. But the public safety department had received $2 million to do some youth engagement. To try to deter gang activity or violence among youth. But there is nothing in his highlights that made reference to any of the money he may have received. I think it was in 22, 23 or 23, 24.
Specifically for that.
Safer community.
Yeah, so right now they're partnering with AMBI, the Department of Community and Social Services, and that project was in, I think it was up.
Called the Safer Community Fund.
But they are pushing that, especially this summer, to do a bunch of activities under that fund to make sure that the money doesn't go out.
And the other thing I wanted to inquire about is there a director of public safety?
Yes.
Is his salary paid 100% out of the Akwesasne Mohawk Police Service budget?
Yes.
Why? Why not? Because it's more than police
So
service.
we have what, 4 programs there?
Yes.
We have compliance, emergency measures, ambulance, and police. Correct. So unfunded, funded. We have very little funding coming in for ambulance. The funding for emergency measures is very project-based, where they don't give money for salaries, and then compliance is very, that's a little bit of, what do you call that? Tickets they give, but they're very, very little, so there's just not the money there to do that.
Okay, the other item in tech services or IHE for the new building design for the fire station, you said it's complete or written it's complete, but now we have to go through a community survey. So when other buildings, when the designs are complete, will they undergo community surveys as well?
I'm not sure. I know they have to do public consultation on anything that they're going to pursue for it, so if that's the same thing as the survey, I'm not sure.
Is
Indigenous Services Canada, I was watching. That is the mandated part, that they have to do community consultation on and before any submission is done for big building.
Okay, we'll take 3 more questions and then we're gonna wrap up for this evening. So we'll take one over here. Back over here. Here.
Second, my name is John McDozor, here on behalf of the Police Commission. So part of the community policing initiative, we have been coming together and having a lot of discussions on how we can improve that for the community. And some of the concerns that are consistently being brought up is the immigration flow that is coming through, right, and the barriers that come with that. So during our last meeting, we had a suggestion that we want to present, and that would be to have council approach the tribal police, as well as CBSA, possibly Cornwall and their police, estimated OVP, to create a situation table around how we could work together to bring a petition to Parliament to have changes to the criminal code of Canada, specifically around the trafficking of people here with this community. So I wanted to present this and see what feedback is like as well, and if there could be a commitment made today.
Yeah, so again, we are discussing only budgetary. We'll acknowledge what you have to say, and we'll set up a meeting with the commission and to further that. Thank you. Over here. Sorry.
Why is the Department of Economic Development, 24 to 25, why is the arena $1 million in the pool?
Yeah, so there's not very many arenas, other than probably NHL arenas, that generate enough money to cover the cost of the operation. So since the arena's inception was built 25 plus years ago, it has never been a break even or generated enough money to cover the cost.
The electric bill at the arena is $500,000.
Oh.
So that's a large part of the cost.
Is there any, more money for like more youth programs, like the, survival, camp and, the Ash Family that they had?
Yes.
Like, will there be, more workshops and more instructors?
We need the community's help, like, we need people to come out and do those things. You know, we're open to any idea, any solution, but it has to be based towards, geared towards children. Because there's only enough people to do so much, you know, so we do need more volunteerism, community participation, and willingness to provide that. So, I mean, we were talking about the First Nation Child and Family Services Fund, the FNCFS. And right now, I mean, I'm utterly, completely honest, and anybody who knows me, but there is $70 million we have sitting there for children. And how do we improve the lives of our children? So what I said is, and I kind of cornered my nieces and nephews the other day, and when you ask the question, is we have, and even this, like the consensus, right? We need to go out and gather data. So for us to say, you need this, I don't know what you need. It's ignorant for me to make the assumption. That's how the Canadian government treats us. I would love if we could get kids together and say, how do we, I asked my nieces and I said, we have all of this money at the band office. How do we make your lives better? And they looked at me and it was like, they need to be engaged to say, what can we do for you to make your lives better? But I do agree that we need to give our kids their identity back. That all of those traditional things that we missed because people were sheltering us from being hurt, we need to bring that back in. And that's part of what this money should be used for.
What program, what department would be responsible? I hear you talking about, yeah, what this young man is saying is absolutely true. We need to do those, we need to provide those. I could hear the law pounding at every when I was going my walks. But what program puts a call out to the community-wide to say, who can you put your name forward if you can pound logs or if you can smoke fish?
But that's why we need what do you call it, partnerships. We need partnerships with Native, the traveling college. We need partnerships with all of these other places that if we can't do everything for everybody, but can you help us? Can you help us? Can you help us? Because the worst thing in the world that could happen to this First Nation is we're handing that money back, and we don't want to do that because we have an opportunity to make our children's lives great. We have that opportunity.
Some of that money, that 70 million we just talked about, how come they can't go to the traveling college?
There's nothing to say against the kids. There's nothing to say against. We just have to get. We're just all strapped right now, and we just have to get the things done in MCR.
Can some of it go to the library? Can some of it go to the Freedom School?
Columns, yeah. It's sticky. So if you Google FNCFS, it'll say eligible expenditures, and you can see that, but it's prevention. All of it is prevention and trying to deter kids from going the wrong way. It's to bring them, it's that, Charmaine is going to be running. But it has to be, helping people fix their houses to make it suitable for children. But what this gentleman says, yeah, there is money, but we just have to have enough time to take a breath to actually implement the programming.
Is there also a willingness to change, like make minor adjustments to the curriculum, like go out and pick berries and medicine?
Why not? Why not? I'd love to.
I think what they're asking for is, communities, like we have 3 districts. We need soccer players. All of our kids are going out for sports. Why can't we provide those sports on the
We
way?
have to have the willingness for people to run those programming, because it wouldn't be a part, like, that's why we're creating a Parks and Recreation Department. We need green spaces. We need, we need a place for that kid who just don't feel right going home at night because there's stuff going on at home. We need an open door for that kid, for that somewhere to go. But having that open door, who's going to be here? We're having enough time recruiting people within the organization right now. We don't have enough workers to meet all of the needs. So if we want to outsource this to whatever program you want, sure, let us help you. Let us help you do that. Because we don't have enough personnel to do it. We're running out of teachers. We don't have enough teachers to teach. We don't have enough supply teachers. We had to almost shut down one of our classrooms at one point because we had too many people call in sick. So we need the community's help, and we need them to come and work with us to do these things. And it's the stupidest problem, because for years, we didn't have enough money, we were operating on the brink of deficit. And now we have the money to do what we need to do, and we're still not getting the work done because we don't have the people to do it. So it's, we need everybody's help, and that's it. And instead of taking a me, mine, I approach, we have to take a we approach to make our community better.
Why don't you put that out there? I'm sure you'll get a lot of volunteers.
I hope so.
If I heard that, I would volunteer.
I'm not a politician,
You know what I mean? Put that out there, I would volunteer.
but it's out there.
Really quickly, and then we're gonna go over here for, what is it?
So, as Yorkshire are, so we found become top heavy, we have a lot of associate directors. How is that impacting the services and everything? I'm really tired of seeing the clinic use of by appointment. When are we gonna get a walking clinic back into our?
So it's a very compounded issue. I mean, Heather's described a lot of it. I mean, the demands are great from the community. And, we have business that we do regularly and at times, and it's getting better. I mean, COVID, has really changed a lot. There's a couple other factors that have changed. The recruitment and getting people in the door to do what we normally would do every day, right? And that's the minimum, the MCA minimum. And then the demands are so great that we want to do the extra overboats, right? I mean, so the resourcing of people, having people to do the jobs has been a real big challenge for the last 2 years in all aspects, right? From entry to management to supervisory to accountants to engineers. Like, this is not just an MCA problem. There's so many, it's across the board in so many different areas that just, there's not enough resources, not enough people. There's not enough people to deliver services. And so it's getting better. The challenge is from a financial perspective, right, is that we have monies to do certain activities. We just don't have the people to do those activities.
So none of our doctors are listening to you at this point.
We'll drill down on that a bit more. I mean, we have gotten a couple more doctors in there. We have the whole licensing issue, which I know you're very aware of. We're on the cusp of getting that resolved out of years and no, we have been pushing hard on Quebec to find a solution to that. We're very close to getting it done. It's a complicated issue. You know this, right? And it's not, and it's sensitive to Quebec because of the French language, right? I mean, they don't even know where our community is, but so anyways, we're really close to that, which hopefully open the door for more doctors. But the other challenge too, though, right, in the whole health sector is that COVID has eradicated nurses, doctors. You see in the news now, doctors are getting out of the profession and going to do other things or moving to, the States or places where they're paid more. So it's, it's a big challenge, but, we're doing the best that we can. We hear you, and we'll find out why this is not happening and what those challenges are.
We have horse injury, that's why.
Age might have been a factor. We're going to take one last one. I'm probably going to regret this, but.
I have a few questions, Bob. First, for you, is it true that you're leaving Mohawk Council and going to work for the Senate in Ottawa? I heard a few things. First of all, I heard not name, then you're going to work for Senator Clement, or you're gonna become a Lawrence. I don't know which one of those are true.
Yeah.
Your next question, please.
All right, so for Lynn to get on the top of the list, I think she needs to realize that it comes with who you put in office. Because if you keep putting the same old people in there, guess what? No, nothing. If you notice that Snowy has 6 capital projects on the top of the list, I think that has to do with our leadership. But they're all gonna suffer because none of them have uttered the word fire department. So they're on the top of that. Okay, that's why you know those are my chiefs, Anyway, so the ambulance. When I used to work for Seaway Valley, the tribe paid Seaway Valley $36,000 a year to have their ambulance at the Thompson place, right? $36,000 a year, plus the tribe was paid $10,000 a month to rent that garage for their ambulance to sit in. And right now, our ambulance is sitting in there. Well, why are we letting the tribe out? Look, I know you said to your mother earlier that we're providing service to our people, but who is paying for that size service?
We use this third-party ambulance service and it's called PAB. I'm not sure what the acronym stands for, so forgive me. But say we pick somebody up at the casino and transport them, we'll bill them. And sometimes we get paid and sometimes we don't. But, no, and to be brutally honest, I bring that up all the time, is our ambulance is operating in deficit and we need help securing funding. So. I think it's a very important thing. They're professional developing all the time. It's nobody else is going to service us, so we have to take care of ourselves.
It's very tribe, they would pay a non-native service, then a lot of money to just sit there. I've seen the records and the statistics where we have 60 calls, 60 calls, and they're paying 36,000, basically $50,000 a month, 30 for 60 calls. You know what I mean? It was like, and then ICR ambulance go to Messina more frequently than they go to Cornwall. And I said, holy man, I said, we must be breaking it in, but we're not.
No, we're not. It's a political issue. It is a political issue.
Oh, election year.
It's but I mean, but that's right. It's like, if we don't have that service to service ourselves, nobody's gonna do it for us.
Do you have any agreements for fire department?
There's a partnership for flowovers, right? Huh?
They can operate.
All right, we're going to, was there anything else that you wanted to ask on that? No, okay.
Very quick.
Yes.
Now, we've had several district releases signed for 6 months back. And that each one we requested council to please ask our executive director to please attend the next district meetings. Because that's where we feel we need to start, and like some of you have already stated, that's where it starts, and then she is allowed to then approach all the directors where all the concerns are, and just to move things along quicker. So we're hoping, and I'm just taking advantage of this situation because our executive, the government director is here now, and we hope to see her at our next district meeting.
Thank you. One last and then we're going to.
Okay, I have a question. So I work for ACFF, their needs support workers, and I help advocate and assist families with getting their needs met. This has been a reoccurring situation where children need to be assessed for developmental needs. It could be anything from like autism, spectrum, whatnot. Anyways, our program is able to facilitate and take on that burden of financial costs and set up all the appointments. However, we have community residents that reside in the northern portion, but their children go to New York State schools. New York State schools do not take these assessments and do accommodations for these children. So we tried to do another loophole. They are tribal members, try to get services through tribal. Because they reside in Canada, they can't. So these kids are getting lost, and this is just an ongoing where we're keep getting referrals to our office. How do we help? Can you communicate with the tribal chiefs on seeing how we can merge this barrier that's there? Because it's just gonna keep recurring.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks for flagging that with us, and we'll definitely follow up. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for attending this evening's special general meeting of our presentation of 2024 operating budgets. We will have our regular general meeting May 3rd, and it's scheduled to occur in the district reassignment. Sorry, May 2nd, my apologies. All right, with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn. All in favor? So much. Please take some snacks in the back before you go. They were graciously donated by Women Med Life. So, thank you.
Did we just shut this off? Did we just end it? Oh, yeah, just end it.